Hello, everyone. This is the 229th episode of Soccernostalgia Talk Podcast. As always, this is Sean from Los Angeles and the Soccer Nostalgia blog. For this episode, I welcome back Mr. Carlos Lozano as we discuss FC Barcelona with Bobby Robson as manager during the 1996-97 season, the season of Ronaldo. Mr. Lozano is a Spanish economist and a former Catalan city councilor. He is also a member of CIHEFE, Spanish Center of Investigation of Football History. Welcome back, Carlos.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you.
Last time we left off at the end of the Johan Cruyff era in 1996. Barcelona were to start a new season and a new era for the 1996-97 season for the first time in nearly a decade without Johan Cruyff. Cruyff had impacted the team and the city like no other. What was the outlook for the coming season?
Well, the end of Cruyff's era is absolutely traumatic. He's sacked in a discussion in the dressing room in front of all other players because after two very bad years in Barcelona, Cruyff didn't expect to be sacked. He believed that he could continue and with new players reach again new trophies. But the president of Barcelona, José Luis Núñez, and his vice president, Joan Gaspart, who later will be also president, take the decision that he has to end his era because those two last years were really terrible for the team. And so the decision is taken and is given in a Saturday morning when all the team is, all the players and the coach are in the dressing room. The result are a discussion, a very, very bad scene where the reactions of everybody are very, very bad. They never explain it totally, but the tension goes there and is absolutely terrible. So Cruyff is sacked, and the opinion in the Barcelona supporters is divided in two halves. The half with Cruyff, they think that he's the best coach in the history of Barcelona, and the other half with Núñez, with the president, because he had to do it in spite of all. In this summer, so Núñez is still the president and needs some strong decisions. So he contracts a new coach, and he will be Robson. Bobby Robson, he has a great amount of prestige around Europe, in England in particular. He has been the national team manager in England, and he is also a personality nice, who is received with a good attitude because he comes with a good attitude also. And with it, he needs some new players, a lot of new players. And so will arrive Giovanni, a top Brazilian player, but here will not have all the results we expected. Pinchi, an Argentinian forward who will score so important goals, but also will not reach all the triumphs we expected. The goalkeeper, Vitor Bahia, he was seen as the best goalkeeper in Europe, probably, this Portuguese goalkeeper. Another Portuguese, Fernando Couto, the defender Laurent Blanc, who later will be remembered as one of the best French defenders in history, and two very particular players. Hristo Stoichkov, yes, he has left Barcelona 1 year ago because of the strong personality of Stoichkov and of Cruyff. So he had to leave, and just 1 year later, Stoichkov came back. We all will see that he is an older version of Stoichkov that will not give the same result. And Luis Enrique, a very original arrival, because Luis Enrique, to some months ago, was a player of Real Madrid. Yes, Luis Enrique, you know perfectly, is now the coach of Paris Saint-Germain. He will be later the coach of Barcelona. In 1996, was playing in Real Madrid. He arrived there very young from Sporting de Gijón. He made some good performances, especially the year that Real Madrid wins the league in 1995. But in the next year, he had a lot of problems with Valdano, with presidency of Real Madrid. He is not a regular player in the team. And finally, he decides to leave Real Madrid at the end of his contract. And as soon as he ends his contract, he comes to Barcelona. In Real Madrid, they will take it very badly. And we will say it was a strong position by Barcelona, and just 4 years before that Luis Figo will do the opposite movement. And as you know, in those years, and even now, that the player goes to Real Madrid from Real Madrid to Barcelona or vice versa, is a high tension, a high problem, and Luis Enrique will be hated in Real Madrid from that very moment until now.
We should mention that Bobby Robson was actually approached in the 1980s as well, but obviously he couldn't get out of his national team contract. Bobby Robson, upon his appointment, what was the reaction from the Barcelona public?
It was a very difficult moment to hire a coach. So Robson was not very known here because at that moment the international soccer was not the most known of the things here. But the name was known, and he, when arrives here, he knows how he has to do to win the confidence of the people. And in just some weeks, he's seen as a nice person and a possible good coach. He has new players, and there is some illusion in the supporters. And so, really, he has a nice arrival here, and he is really remembered as one of the best person, sympathetic. Really, he will live in just 1 year, because that's another point. He will be only 1 year here. He will miss a very good memory of his stance here.
Were there worries that he might use tactics sharply different to Cruyff?
Well, he goes back to the usual tactics. Cruyff's tactics was absolutely imprevisible. He could play with three defenders. He could play with players out of his position. But Robson is a more traditional coach, more traditional, with a 4-3-3, and with some players of high talented players, and that he will use in their positions. Maybe except Luis Enrique. That's the only point where Robson has a demonstration of his capacities, because he sees that Luis Enrique, who was a defender, is still playing highest, and he will finally play as the forward, and he will be one of the players who scores more goals in the season. That was maybe the best new tactical point in Luis Enrique's, in Bobby Robson's presence here, to move the position of Luis Enrique.
We must remember also that this was the very first season that the Bosman ruling took effect. It was because of this that Barcelona went on a massive shopping spree with all these players, just like their rivals Real Madrid, almost every other team in Spain. Was that looked upon as one way to match with the Serie A in Italy now that all the constraints were off?
Yes, Barcelona was the richest club in Spain at that very moment, a bit more than Real Madrid. Only the Italian clubs can have more money to buy players. But Barcelona also sees that usually had three foreign players and a lot of Spanish players. This summer will go, thanks to the Bosman sentence, to buy European players, basically. So he goes to Portugal, he goes to France, he goes also to buy to Netherlands to Ronaldo. He was playing in PSV Eindhoven. So they take new players, only one Spanish, Luis Enrique, and a lot of foreign players. In the Spanish league, everybody did this. This is a season when I arrived here, Seedorf and Roberto Carlos, moved me to Vicente Suker, they all to Real Madrid, and also Deportivo, Atletico Madrid. Everybody is buying a lot of players because the limitation of three foreign players is over. And we will go to the known as the Liga de las Estrellas, the League of the Stars, that in 2 years will be seen as the second league in Europe with more talented players. Only Italy can pay more money, and we will see at the end of the season when the best players in the Spanish league will go to the Italian league, in particular Ronaldo.
Let's look at the transfer activity again. So you mentioned the main ones like Vitor Baia, the goalkeeper of Porto, because Bobby Robson felt that they needed international goalkeeper. Let's remember at that point, Barcelona's goalkeeper for the past 2 seasons had been Carlos Busquets, father of Sergio Busquets. Of course, Stoichkov coming back from Parma, Ronaldo from PSV Eindhoven, the Il Fenomeno. Juan Antonio Pizzi, the Argentine striker from Tenerife, who would become a Spanish international. Of course, you mentioned Luis Enrique, Giovanni from Santos, Fernando Couto, and Laurent Blanc came from Auxerre. Later in the season, you have the Nigerian striker Emmanuel Amunike from Sporting Club Portugal arrives. And we have to mention the players who leave the club as well during this offseason. You have Tony Velamazan, who leaves to join Oviedo. Meho Kodro, the Bosnian striker, he did not have a very good season at Barcelona in his one season and he joins Tenerife. George Hagi, the Romanian superstar, he joins Galatasaray. Jordi Cruyff, after what happened with his father, he leaves and joins Manchester United. Carreras joins Mallorca. Later in the season, you have the Croatian star Robert Prosinecki joining Sevilla, and Jose Maria Baquero leaves Barcelona after 8 years and joins the Mexican League around December. So there's an overhaul of players. But let's talk about the player who would be the star of the season and the star of the season in Europe. What was exactly known about Ronaldo at this point from the Barcelona crowd?
Well, Ronaldo is a well-known forward for people who is close to the European football. But at 19 years old, he's not seen as the best player that will be seen later. At that moment, he's a very young player, and Barcelona goes to him and buys his license, and nobody expects he will go where he will go. In just 3 months, we will see now when we analyze the season, he will go to be a good player, to be the best of the world. And this change will produce in Barcelona. Barcelona has an special turn and some special possibilities that has allowed this several times. And we have seen in Ronaldo, in Messi, even Ronaldinho came here and here in only a few months was the best of the world. It's a very interesting city to be because these young players go to the top as soon as they arrive here. About the other points you said, it's interesting to see the players who left Barcelona in this summer. It's basically the reason why Cruyff was sacked also. The world top class players as Hagi, Prosinecki, and Kodro were here for 2 years, and none of them left nothing to remember. Barcelona with these players that Cruyff took here was a disaster of Barcelona. They were a bit old, or maybe Cruyff didn't know how to use them well. But all of them were a terrible problem at the end and were not usual in the team. They were out of their best moment and they needed to go. A different situation of Vaquero. He was old and so he had to leave. He didn't leave in the summer, he leaves in November. Robson used him in some matches, but in November he had a very good economical possibility from Mexico and he go there. And then Tony Belamazan, another player. Tony Belamazan was maybe in the best that Cruyff left here in the last 2 years. It was the Quinta del Mini, a little group, 5, 6 young players who were playing in Barcelona and doing it very well. They were around 19, 20 years old. But by the end, because of this change of coach and other matters, none of them will be finally going to start in Barcelona. Belamazan leaves, Oscar will be some years. Ivan de la Peña is the best of them and will be here some years, but he will later go to Español and there he will be the star. And this is the only pity of this era, that these young players who were really very good players and were around 20 years old, none of them will finally consolidate in Barcelona. One of them, Albert Celades, even will have the best results in Real Madrid than in Barcelona some years later.
That group were being compared to La Quinta del Buitre. They were supposed to be Barcelona's response to La Quinta del Buitre.
Yes, La Quinta del Calvo, La Quinta del Mini. They had a very good match in the previous season with Cruyff against Betis. Betis were a very good team, and Barcelona won at the house of Betis by 1-5. And these players left astonished everybody. But it has no continuity, and in a couple of years, near all of them were out of Barcelona. A pity.
We already discussed the new signings, but let's look at the backbone of the team that was already in place. With Vitor Baya being the starting goalkeeper, you still have the likes of Julen Lopetegui and Carlos Busquets on the books as backup. In defense, you have the likes of Abelardo, Albert Ferrer, Nadal, Sergi Barjuan. So there's still a backbone of a good Spanish players. Guillermo Amor, Salah, as you mentioned, Ivan de la Peña. Of course, the Portuguese star Luis Figo has been there since the previous year. Of course,
Mhm.
Pep Guardiola and Angel Cuellar, among others. So there's already a good backbone of mostly Spanish players who are now complemented with all the foreign stars.
Yes, the defensive players were the same as the previous year. And basically, Sergi is still very young, and then Nadal, more veteran, and Berardo, and the addition of Laurent Blanc, Fernando Couto, good player, but not so much. Fernando Couto, like Vitor Vella, will not adapt. And the position of the goalkeeper is maybe the reflection of a lot of things in Barcelona these years. Until 1994, the goalkeeper is to Bizarreta, a very, very good goalkeeper known around the world, but Cruyff in 1994 decides that Bizarreta will have to leave the team, and it has a big controversy. Why? Because he didn't look for a new goalkeeper, but he maintains the two supplement goalkeepers in the team. They were Carlos Busquets and Mariano Angoy. And this is a big problem because Mariano Angoy is a relative of Johan Cruyff. He is the boyfriend of Cruyff's daughter. And so Barcelona has for 2 years two goalkeepers of low level because Cruyff prefers this, because he knows that if he takes here top class goalkeeper, his relatives will not play. And everybody can see this. It's so clear that even Cruyff has to go a step back, and is Busquets the usual goalkeeper, and then Goy only plays some matches. But this is the situation. So when the coach changes, it's the end of the chances of Angoy. He leaves the team. He will not go to any other football team. He will go to an American football team. That's a very strange movement that shows what kind of player we are speaking about. He goes to the American football team, and you know that here there is no tradition of American football, but there was the Barcelona Dragons playing world competition that NFL had organized here. Well, he goes from soccer to American football. And the goalkeeper here is Carlos Busquets and a new goalkeeper, Julen Lopetegui. And finally, it's in that Julen Lopetegui is not a top goalkeeper either. He comes from Logroñés, but he's not convincing in the few matches he played. And we go to a top European goalkeeper now, yes, and that is Vitor Bahia, goalkeeper of the Portuguese national team and goalkeeper of Porto. He is received as a top player, and his performances will not go well. He receives a lot of goals because of his own mistakes, and so just 1 year later, Vitor Bahia will leave Barcelona to go to Porto again. The matter of the goalkeeper will be a high problem in Barcelona from 1994 during 10 years until Victor Valdés, a player from La Masia, will show his performance with his performances that he is the new goalkeeper of Barca. But for 10 years, there will be a strong problem in Barcelona's goal.
European football history changes on October 12, 1996, when Ronaldo became a global star after that goal against Compostela. Can you walk us through this event?
Well, the goal has to be seen. It's incredible. He's still voted in sometimes as the best goal in the history of the Spanish Primera División because he goes through all the field, through 5 or 6 different opponent players, and finally he goes against the goalkeeper and beats him. But that is not an isolated goal. Ronaldo begins to play in Barcelona in August in a match of Supercopa against Atletico Madrid, a match played in Montjuic, curiously, because the Camp Nou was in that moment changing a lot the field, the turf, and a lot of things. And in that match, August 25th, is also remembered, but the incredible Ronaldo, Barcelona wins 5-2. Ronaldo scoring and also playing in 3 of the goals and giving the first impression of his strong quality. From there on, Barcelona has a very high performance. He winning at Oviedo the first league match 2-4. winning at Zaragoza 3-5 with strong polemics, and winning at Compostela 1-5. 15 years later, a match against Valencia in Barcelona, Ronaldo scores a hat-trick for a 3-2 win. So in these first 3 months, from August to November, Ronaldo scores near all the matches he plays. Some of the goals are absolutely historical. He shows he's a player with quality and also with so strong that literally nobody can stop him. And he deserves all the recognition. So you must think that we arrived to that November, and he's known by many people as the best player in the world, and then amazing arriving to the elite of football. And is in just 3 months in which Barcelona is playing very well, scoring a lot of goals, and Ronaldo is scoring most of them. Really amazing, such a start of season by the Brazilian player.
Barcelona started the season, like you said, scoring many goals with Ronaldo on fire. But losses against Athletic Bilbao in November and especially against Real Madrid in December gave Real Madrid the edge in the league race. Despite Barcelona's impressive form, did these losses end the league title hopes?
Yes, the season in the Liga of Barcelona is irregular. I'll tell you later, this is a league of 22 teams because some matter of the previous year, Spanish league has 22 teams, it's 42 matches, very, very long. And Barcelona will win 28 matches. It's the record. Nobody before had won 28 matches, in part because the leagues were a little shorter. But still, doing this record, Barcelona will not be the champion. Why? Because Real Madrid will get more points. Barcelona wins a lot, also has some defeats that are unexpected, and we can see here some of them. In the 14th match is the first defeat. It's okay, it's not very bad data in Bilbao 2-1, but 2 weeks later, Barcelona goes to visit to Real Madrid, and 2 of the new players of Real Madrid, Suker and Mijatovic, scores the only goals. Real Madrid wins 2-0, and he shows that he's at the top of the table because he has taken a lot of new players and they are also playing well. You must think that Real Madrid in the previous season had a very terrible year to the point that they didn't qualify not only for the Champions League, they didn't qualify to any European competition. It's the second time in history that Real Madrid is not playing in European competition this year because of the terrible performance of the previous season. So they are now with Fabio Capello as a coach, a strange movement to take the best coach in Italy and take it to the Spanish league. Fabio Capello had won the champions with Milan just 2 years before defeating Barcelona. So it's really a very, very well-known coach around the world. And they, with all these new players, Seidor, Roberto Carlos, Secretario, and the goalkeeper, the German goalkeeper, Bodo Inner, they are at the top of the table because Barcelona is having some defeats. And I will tell you, arrives on the 19th match, the worst defeat of all. Barcelona is playing at home to Hércules. The Valencian team is second by bottom in the table. Barcelona expects an easy win in a match in January in a Monday night. And Barcelona is winning 2-0. But in a very strange second time, the Barcelona players disconnect and Hércules scores 3 goals and take the win. And Barcelona will pay this defeat against Hércules because 60 points were absolutely needed, and you cannot win the league if you are defeated at home by one of the last teams of the table.
By the end of the year 1996 and the beginning of the year 1997, all the hype was about Ronaldo. He finished second in the Ballon d'Or voting and had become the most hyped football personality since Maradona. Can you paint a picture of all this phenomenon at this time?
Well, he plays with his quality and he's strong. The more impressive plays is when he receives the ball, maybe very far from the goal, and he goes advancing, and literally the other players cannot stop him. He goes through them. If there are 2 defenders, he goes a bit among them. He goes forward, and when he is in front of the goal, he has a shoot that is unstoppable. It's every match he leaves his quality to be seen. Just some videos tell you, but in Camp Nou, the people is absolutely in love with him. At every match, he did something. For that, that's terrible. That the promise in defense and another kind of inconsistency in the team leads that the team with a player like this who gives you one, even two goals every match, such a team has defeats against some low table teams. I can say that the other players in attack are Luis Enrique in a very new role in the team. He will score 18 goals this season. And Giovanni playing forward only scores 12. Is a low score player of Barcelona. And Luis Figo is in his second year. He has a good season, but you see in perspective, not enough. Only 8 goals in 50 matches he plays. The best figure will arrive the next year when Ronaldo is not at Barcelona. Now, with some perspective, we can see that really there was an excess of dependence on Ronaldo. As everybody was expecting, Ronaldo wins the matches. And as a phenomenon as he is, that never is enough with one player to win a trophy for the team.
It would be in the cup competitions that Barcelona excelled. Let's look at the Cup Winners' Cup victory with ultimate triumph over Paris Saint-Germain on May 14th, 1997.
Mhm.
Barcelona went through this competition, eliminating the likes of Red Star Belgrade and Fiorentina on the way to defeat Paris Saint-Germain.
Well, Club Winners' Cup, young people now cannot believe it, but it was a very important trophy to win. Barcelona was at that moment the team with more trophies, won three, and this year will win the fourth. Here it was seen as a very important trophy, and we were used that Barcelona was not in the Champions League every year because Champions League was only for the first team, for the champion of every country, and that was very difficult. So this year, the Spanish representative was Atletico Madrid, and Cup Winners' Cup, known here as Recopa, was very important. And that's it was not very difficult to win because there were 4 rounds and later a final. In just 9 matches, you can have an European trophy. So Barcelona is defeating a Cypriot team. Later, Red Star of Belgrade in a match in Barcelona where Ronaldo scores twice and Barcelona wins 3-1. Later, a tough rival, as is the Sweden team Ike from Stockholm, and a very interesting semi-final against Fiorentina. And finally, we meet an Italian rival, Italy and Spain, the strongest leagues in Europe. And Fiorentina comes to Barcelona and gets a draw, 1-1, goals by Michelangelo Nadal and Gabriel Batistuta. So everything to be decided in Artemio Franchi in Firenze. And Barcelona will win there, 9-2. Fernando Couto, he scores in all the season. Couto scores just 2 goals. One of them is this very important goal. And Guardiola in a fault, the coach, now coach Josep Guardiola, and the shot of fault will give Barcelona the win. In spite of a lot of problems, Nadal is sent off, so he will not play final, but Barcelona goes to the final. The final against Paris Saint-Germain. It's not the actual Paris Saint-Germain, the current Paris Saint-Germain, but it's a very good team with players. Remember Raihi, they were buying always some very good players. And Barcelona plays the match, a very serious match, but it's a match full of spectacularity. It's not a nice match to see. It leaves a very few chances of goal, and this decided by a penalty. A penalty for Barcelona is scored by Ronaldo. But it's not a great performance by Ronaldo. He scores the penalty. He goes to history as the player who made the goal, the only goal of the final. But it's not that a great match of Barcelona, nor Ronaldo. As a matter of fact, it's Luis Figo the best player. He shots 2 times to the bar, but they were not goal, and it's Ronaldo who scored the goal. And Barcelona wins 1-0, but it's currently a final with leaves a little memory in the fans. Barcelona was the champion, but as we will see, the final of the Spanish Cup is very more remembered than this final of the Cup Winners' Cup.
In winning the Spanish Cup, the Copa del Rey, Barcelona eliminated both Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid along the way before defeating Real Betis in the final. That must have been much more memorable given the opposition.
Barcelona has won Copa del Rey maybe 30 times. And maybe none of them is as well remembered as this. In a single season, to have 3 absolutely brilliant eliminatories and emotional eliminatories against Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, and Betis is not usual. At first, because Real Madrid is the rival of Barcelona in 18th final, very, very soon, in February. And in the first match in Barcelona, Real Madrid is winning 1-2, have scored Ronaldo, David Zucker, and Fernando Hierro. The two last goals by Michelangelo Nadal and Giovanni give Barcelona the lead 3-2. And in Santiago Bernabéu, Barcelona is lucky. A shot by Ronaldo impacts in the leg of Roberto Carlos, who scores in his own goal. Finally, 1-1, and Barcelona has overcome Real Madrid. Well, a big point. But in quarterfinals, the rival is Atletico Madrid, and it will be even better. A draw in the first leg in Vicente Calderón, and Camp Nou, full expectation in Camp Nou, because Barcelona is expected to defeat an irregular Atletico Madrid. Well, and here comes the Serbian player Pantic of Atletico Madrid. He scores 3 consecutive goals, and Atletico Madrid is winning 0-3 in Camp Nou. Ronaldo scores 1-3, and another goal later by Ronaldo, 2-3. He scored Figo, has scored also, but a new goal by Pantic, the fourth goal by Pantic in this match, 2-4. And Barcelona still scores another goal by Ronaldo, another by Ronaldo, and one from Pizzi at 8 minutes to the end. So Barcelona wins 5-4. Has scored the 3 last goals in the last 20 minutes. Ronaldo has got a hat-trick. Pantic has scored 4 goals, and his team has been defeated. And Pizzi scores a goal, I very remember it because it's the great moment in his career in Barcelona. The Pizzi's goal he's claimed the Macanudo from that goal for his celebrations. And Barcelona has overcome an eliminatory who couldn't be in a more difficult moment. It's 30 years later, is still remembered that incredible 5-4 against Atletico Madrid. The final will arrive in later June, and it has 2 peculiarities. The first is played against Betis in Santiago Bernabéu, but the more important, Ronaldo is not in Barcelona. He's a Barcelona's player, but the Copa America is being played those same weeks in Bolivia, and the Brazilian national team counts on Ronaldo and has taken him. How is possible this coincidence of dates? Because the Spanish league, with 22 teams, has the calendar absolutely collapsed, and the Spanish league has finished in the month of June. And the cup final is, as always, played the next week of the end of the league. So we're there with the players of Copa America absent in this final. Against Betis coached by Llorenç Serra Ferrer, who later will be the coach of Barcelona. Betis, who has been the third classified in the league, and will lead the score 2 times. They're winning 2-1, and we are 5 minutes to the end. And it seems that Betis is going to win this cup. But in the 58th minute, Pizzi again scores the draw, and we go to extra time. And the extra time, a goal by Figo will give victory to Barcelona. It's a very parallel situation to the cup final of 2025, with Barcelona being defeated 5 minutes to the end, scoring goal in the last minutes, and again in the extra time. Barcelona wins 3-2 and has the biggest of the celebrations in Santiago Bernabéu. Something that Real Madrid organizers didn't expect is Barcelona not only celebrates there, but also has the control of the sound. So the hymn of Barcelona sounds 4 times in Bernabeu. That is as a big site of Barcelonism, of Catalan supporters there. From that moment, 1997, to now, near always, when Barcelona is in the cup final, Real Madrid has said that they don't offer his stadium to play this final. Real Madrid doesn't want Barcelona winning and celebrating in Bernabeu, and for 30 years we have seen all kinds of explanations, some of them absolutely unbelievable, in order to look that this stadium is not used in any final in which Barcelona is playing.
And that season is also remembered for all the matches against Atletico Madrid that produced so many goals, starting with the Super Cup, and then obviously in the league and in the Copa del Rey. Every match with Atletico Madrid produced so many goals. And in general, Barcelona scored so many goals that season. I think in the league they scored like 102 goals.
Yes, it was customary. It was a tradition that the matches between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid had a lot of goals. It comes some years ago. I remember it was some match in the cup with 0-6 and these kind of things. I also remember the best year of Romario 3 years ago. He has scored 3 goals in Atletico Madrid, Vicente Calderón. Barcelona is winning 0-3, and finally Atletico wins 4-3. So that was usual. This year we have the Super Cup. We said 5-2 in Montjuic. We have the Copa del Rey match, 5-4 in Barcelona, and also a league match in Madrid, where Barcelona wins 2-5 with 3 goals by Ronaldo. That's a match played in the spring when Barcelona is running against Real Madrid. Barcelona has seen that Real Madrid is in the top of the table with a considerable advantage because Barcelona has been defeated by Real Sociedad with 2 goals by De Pedro. And we cannot forgive this. Barcelona is defeated in Tenerife 4-0. A terrible match with Nadal and Abelardo sent off and 3 goals by Jokanovic. So Real Madrid was in the top with 9 points of advantage. Barcelona won from that moment, play better, and they start the best moment in the season. They will win 5 consecutive matches. One of them, this match against Atletico Madrid, 2-5. But in the next match to that grand win, they will be defeated. Barcelona will be defeated by Valladolid 3-1, and that can be the decisive match to see that this league will not go to Camp Nou.
Bobby Robson had arrived with his assistant from Sporting Club Portugal and Porto, a certain Jose Mourinho. He would act not only as his assistant but also as a translator. Was it self evident that he would become a successful manager at this point?
Oh, the role of Mourinho here was a low-level role. Bobby Robson was the coach, there was a second coach, and Mourinho was some kind of third coach of the team. The difference is that he, as a Portuguese speaking, was in all the press conferences because who translated from English to Spanish and from Spanish to English. So he was well known because we could see him in every press conference. But not for his role as coach that we don't know with precision because he was the third in a chain. Well, we will see him usually. He seems very compromised with Barcelona. His attitude here was admirable in this sense. And even at the end of the season, and the celebrations of the win of the Copa del Rey, he is one of the more enthusiastic in the celebrations. And he will say he has Barcelona forever in his heart and these kind of things. And he has sincerity in these days. He was very well at Barcelona, but the truth is at the end of the season, Robson and his team will leave Barcelona. He leaves Barcelona. He started his own career. Maybe he didn't like the way that this relation with Barcelona ends. And also he goes to other teams who will always be rivals of Barcelona and in particular of Guardiola. And so a strong rivalry will grow and he has a personality that leads to conflict. We know him. But in this moment, in 1996, 1997, Mourinho is working in Barcelona. He has a nice work. It's a low-profile work, but he does very well, and he seems really compromised with Barcelona. Later, life takes him to different situations.
Naturally, as Ronaldo had become the global superstar, there were salary demands and Italian clubs started showing interest. Can you describe this situation that eventually led to Ronaldo's departure after a single season to Inter in the Serie A?
Let's go to the key of the question. From October, Ronaldo is seen as the best player in the world. From early March, begin the commentaries about some foreign team, in particular Italian teams, may want to buy him. What happens here? Well, the Ronaldo, a young player, has two men, his representatives, we call them here, two Brazilian men called Martins and Pita, who help him in negotiations and to take decisions. And the evidence says, because we have seen, that they are moved in some kind for their personal interest. If Ronaldo stays here, even with the best contract, Ronaldo will win a lot of money. But if Ronaldo moves to another club, here there is a percentage, there is a money that goes to these men, his representatives, Martins and Pita. And it looks evident they wanted to receive this money and they couldn't expect this. For them, it was very important that this very year to move Ronaldo to some other club because a lot of money will be won with these two controversial personal. So finally, when Ronaldo is in Copa America, in Bolivia, out of focus in Barcelona, is for their easiest to continue negotiations, and finally they convince Ronaldo to accept a millionaire offer of Inter de Milan. Offered Inter de Milan, who is not playing Champions next year. He goes from a team as Barcelona, who will play the next season the Champions League and maybe even be the champion of it, to an Inter de Milan who will play in UEFA Cup. His decision or decision of these two assessors that later will have all kind of legal problems, but that with this win a lot of money. Ronaldo also wins a lot of money and take the strange decision to remove a player from the team where he is being recognized as the best of the world. He is growing. He can go to the top of the world. He's now on the top of the world. And remove him from here to another place where he can also be the best of the world, but it is to be seen. Very controversial in Barcelona. There is a point in which President Núñez has on the table a contract for Ronaldo, increasing a lot his salary. Finally, it will not be signed because he goes to Inter. Núñez later will see that in his head he prefers have not signed that because that was a so big amount of money that it was not a good contract for Barcelona. But the matter is, what's the sense that a player in just 1 year in the team which is in the top of Europe and leads you to the champions, how can you leave this to go to another club who don't play Champions League? Well, the money, and not only the money for the player, but for the representatives is the key.
It appears that Ronaldo's single season at Barcelona was perhaps his best ever as a footballer. Was this a general view?
Of course, he plays 49 matches. He has not major injuries in Barcelona, some lower, and his absences are due to the Brazil national team. In some years, with calendars are not well compatibilized, he lacks some matches in Barcelona because he's playing with Brazil. For instance, he's not playing in Valladolid in that match where Barcelona and here says goodbye to the league. He's not playing there, and he's not playing in the two final matches of the competition and in the cup final. In spite of that, 47 goals, some of them spectacular. Several hat-tricks is something we haven't seen before. We had in Barcelona to Romario just 4 years before. He arrived here in 1993, also Brazilian, also from PSV Eindhoven, and he said, I will score 30 goals. And he scored exactly 30 goals in the league that season. He ended winning the Pichichi Trophy to the top scorer and going to the World Cup as the best player in the world. Ronaldo is very similar. He arrives here from PSV Eindhoven. He scores even more goals than Romario. He scores some amount of goals that would only be beaten by Messi later. And that's the best player of the world. He goes to Copa America with Brazil and wins it as the best of the world. And just 1 year later, will go to the World Cup in France. He will be the best player in the World Cup 1998, but he has the promise in the final, and Brazil is not the champion. But is a very similar evolution. But if Romario took his statistics to the top, Ronaldo either beats them and is consolidated as the best. And Romario did it as a 27 years old. Ronaldo is doing this with 20 years old, and so with all his career forward. His career is 5 years in Inter Milan. Will have 1 good year and later several terrible injuries. And later will come to Real Madrid. Ronaldo will be 5 years in Real Madrid, but still now he wins the league twice. He scores a lot of goals in Real Madrid, obviously. He wins another PCC trophy, but still now Ronaldo is more remembered in Spain by his performances in 1 year in Barcelona than by his goals in 5 years in Real Madrid.
Despite winning 2 cups, Bobby Robson was pushed aside due to his second place in the league behind Real Madrid. And Dutchman Louis van Gaal was hired, and Robson was pushed upstairs as technical director. Was this a harsh decision, and what was the reaction of the fans at the time?
No, this takes us back to the original the problem. 1 year before, the division in the supporters because Núñez supporters and Cruyff fans. So the coach that comes here has to reach the perfection. And Barcelona Robson won Winners' Cup, but in a year the Barcelona is not playing the Champions League, Barcelona is forced to win the league. And Barcelona has not won the league because Real Madrid finally takes the trophy. So the sensation, the feeling that 8 defeats in the league are a lot. 2 defeats against Hercules, who will be relegated, is a very low team at the moment. Defeats at Valladolid. The feelings come from the competition of Primera División, and they and the last half of the season were not good. So Núñez takes again the decision to go for a still better coach, and he has a chance. Louis van Gaal, the Dutch coach, 2 years before has taken Ajax from being a team for former glories, but not a top European team, to be the European champions in 1995. And has the influence of over a lot of players, of Dutch players, who will come to Barcelona also in the next years. So Van Gaal is seen as the better chance, as the best coach in Europe at that moment, able to take young players and make of them the champions of Europe. And as the chance arises, Cruyff takes the decision to take out Bobby Robson and contracts Louis van Gaal, who will be here for 3 years, in which a lot of Dutch very good players will come to Barcelona and will have some merit with it. But he will not get the champions, not even to play a final. And that will be always the point against Van Gaal in his 3 years in Barcelona.
In closing, how do Barcelona historians view this 1996-97 season of Bobby Robson? Will it always be remembered as the year of Ronaldo?
Well, it's curious. Bobby Robson is remembered like one of the nicest and most beloved coach in history in Barcelona, in spite of being just 1 year here. When he died years ago, all supporters of Barcelona showed his respects and his love for his personality. Ronaldo is remembered maybe as the best individual season of a player in Barcelona out of Messi in the last 40 years. That was absolutely incredible. And still, any Barcelona fan of that time will say that was incredible year by Ronaldo. But Barcelona did not win the league. They did not win the league. And that's the fault. That's the big problem. It gives some of the best nights in the Camp Nou, and that match against Atletico Madrid in the Cup is perfect, is incredible. That win in the Cup in Santiago Bernabéu against Betis at extra time, and these celebrations are still remembered. But that was a brilliant season because, in spite of winning the Winners' Cup, the Copa del Rey, and the Super Cup, the feeling was we could do better, and we didn't get it. And so, in general, people expected for the next year with a new coach a better result. It will not be a better result the next year. As you see, it was a very intense season. It has left a lot of memories in Barcelona fans. Even in some polemics, there is still a match in Zaragoza, not a very important match in league, where Barcelona wins 3-5, with some hard polemics about a penalty in that match that 30 years later is still remembered. That season, in just 1 year, happened so many things. It was so intense by Ronaldo, by Robson, but a lot of matches. That is really one of the most passionate seasons in the history of Barcelona.
With that, I would like to thank you for your participation in this interview. All our contact information is listed on the blog and podcast uploads. So,
Thanks to you and
Carlos,
all the viewers.
Carlos, thank you once again and hope to continue these discussions on football history.
See you early.
Thank you.
Bye.